Hello, everyone. We're going to start in 2 minutes. I wanted to respect everyone's time that showed up a little early and just give 2 minutes for the scragglers, and then we'll go ahead and start. Okay? Thank you. Okay, we'll go ahead and start in about 30 seconds here. Okay, everyone, let's go ahead and get started here. I wanted to thank you for your time today. I'm hoping that you'll have a good learning experience today. I'm going to ad hoc it a little bit here with some of the demonstrations that I'm going to show you today, showing you some integration with being able to do document generation as well as integration with Box and SharePoint, and just showing you how you can use this product within your organization to do some pretty cool things. Just so you know, the reason that you're talking to a partner is everything that Nintex done is through partners. You never buy direct from Nintex, so that's why I'm putting on this webinar today. We are a #1 partner of Nintex, but as you can see, we do a lot of other things besides Nintex. My primary focus is making sure that you're satisfied with your purchase with Nintex and being able to walk you through the different components. There's a lot of different capabilities when you purchase Nintex, DocGen or otherwise. So I just want you to know that we are the #1 partner in the Silicon Valley. We work with customers across the United States and outside of the United States, offshore as well. My personal bio right here, just taking a look. Well, one of the biggest things that I try to strive for, since all I do is Nintex stuff, is really strive to get you to that point at the bottom, to make you an excellent customer reference and make sure you're successful with this product. So you can see I have a lot of experience on the developer side and doing a lot of other things and certifications. But I want to tell you today we're going to focus on kind of the end user experience, and then we'll kind of unpeel it and kind of look behind the scenes of how did you do that. One of the reasons we're here today, and the reasons that people are usually looking at document creation, if you take a look at the very top here, this is a graph of one information worker that is working through the week, and it's usually over 40 hours a week, and this is how they kind of break it down after doing surveys. So everything in blue you can probably relate to. Everything in yellow is stuff that you end up doing between other people. But for most of us, I know for myself, doing quotes, doing statements of work, there's a lot of things you end up doing where you just cut and paste, and you keep on thinking, well, it'd be nice if I could automate this, and you keep on thinking, well, I'll do it tomorrow, and you never end up doing it. And I'm guilty of the same thing. Once I automate something using DocGen, I go back and say, why did I spend so much time in my life doing that? So I'm going to help you get through that today. When you take a look at Nintex, the piece that we're looking at today is just a document generation, which you can see is kind of the fifth item over on your right. But I just want you to know, when you usually purchase Nintex, you can buy it exclusively for Salesforce through the App Store, but you can also buy Nintex to include all the other pieces. All the other pieces I'm going to show you in some degree here. You can do workflow, you can do forms inside of on the internet, or you can do them within SharePoint. So there's some cool things we can do. We can take these forms, put them in a mobile device. So being able to have an application where we can take our forms and put them in a mobile device, people can fill out information on their mobile device and then have that propagate through the back end to Salesforce, what other applications. Today I'm going to show you some of the connectivity into Salesforce from Box, and also from doing it from within SharePoint as well, and just so you have an idea of the kinds of things you can do. Lastly, at the end, you can see that there's this thing called Hawkeye. Hawkeye is basically a data warehouse in the cloud. So as you're collecting information and doing things, maybe as your quotes are going out for customers, you want to take that information, store it in the database, a data warehouse, and be able to report on that later. So you have those kind of capabilities to be able to do that kind of thing. The Salesforce itself, like I said, on App Exchange, you can buy it exclusively for Salesforce, but I just want you to know that you can use Nintex document generation in a variety of different places. So SharePoint, Office 365, and the fact that you can use it from Nintex Workflow Cloud, which is a non-specific platform-based workflow engine, means that we can actually take advantage of using DocGen in pretty much any application. Any application that can make a web service call can initiate a workflow that can initiate a document generation. So when we take a look at document generation, we're not looking at just taking data from Salesforce only in the lower right. We're also talking about taking data from a variety of different data sources and being able to merge them together. The great thing about this is we have one of the capabilities that's not available in any other product. So some of you might be familiar with Conga or something like that for Salesforce. They can't do a lot of the things that Nintex document generation can do using Excel as a middleware. And what I mean by that is maybe we need to do some calculations prior to generating a document, so we can take data from Salesforce or any other third parties, be able to do calculations in the spreadsheet, and then pull that data and put it into the document. And the documents can be merged together. So one thing you don't see in a lot of other products is the ability to be able to merge PDFs along with Word, Excel, PowerPoint. You can bring all these documents together and put them out in a format that you want to. So you're not just relying on going from Word to Word, or having some kind of PDF that you want to merge in there. You can basically combine a bunch of different types of documents, and you can also dynamically include those based on your selection. So we'll go through and look at that. When you take a look, we're kind of focusing on the left-hand side today. So let me draw a little bit on the screen here. But we're going to focus on the Salesforce piece, connecting to Salesforce and Box. But I just want you to know that there are connectors that Nintex offers that can connect to pretty much, OneDrive, Google Drive, pretty much any one of these. You have the ability to be able to go out and connect to and push and pull information. So a lot of capabilities there as far as integration goes. And this kind of comes to the fact that what you're usually trying to do is, bring the people, bring the process and the data together. And that's what the whole idea of this is, being able to automate content here. So what I wanted to do today is basically look at being able to just click a button and be able to generate these types of documents. And this is just, these are your three most used type of documents within Salesforce that you're creating and generating, whether it's contract quotes or some kind of report that might go out to your sales team as well. So we want to be able to show you how to do that today. So one of the things that you should get one of the terms that we'll talk about today is this whole concept of a DDP, a document package. So you're going to see that I'm going to say document package a lot. What basically a document package is a way of putting together and being able to put together all the documents that you want to have. What are the workflow things that are going to happen, and then what is the output going to be? So basically a DDP is a configuration of what you're trying to generate. So really doesn't matter what type of documents, we can merge them, but the whole concept here is you create this DDP or a document package, and that's what's responsible for generating the document. If you're used to using the Lightning experience, this is what it would look like. So if you take a look here, we're basically looking at an opportunity, and you take a look at the, you have the opportunity, and you should recognize this interface if you're using Lightning. Most people are using Classic. It's very rare that I'm talking to many people, unless they're newer Salesforce users that are using Lightning. But where this shows up, where the document package shows up for the users in Lightning, is on the right-hand side right here. So if you take a look, and let me draw a pen here, this whole piece that you're seeing right here, if you have a document package or a DDP that's been created for a certain type of object, so if the DDP is related to an opportunity, then you're going to see all the DDPs or document package. You'll have a list of document packages here, and you can see in this situation we have an invoice. So if we wanted to create an invoice for this person or a company, we could actually do that. So we would click on the invoice button. We would say whether we want to email it or whether we want to download it, and then we would basically go in your lower right-hand corner and click Run Document Package. So from the user's perspective, it's very simple to be able to do, and I'll show that to you in a second here. Let's go ahead and take a look of what this looks like. I wanted to break this down into the user experience, and then we're going to take a look from an administrator's point of view, the things that the administrator has to do and some of the possibilities with being able to do other things. So let me go ahead and show you here. I'm in classic mode right here. I have a bunch of different leads here. And my document packages that I created are going to work on opportunities and leads. So I just kind of wanted to show this to you. So we have this company here, and I want to generate a document. And I just click on the generate a document, and maybe this person is just interested in getting a document generation return on investment type of report, or they could just want to get a quote on just a quote for document generation. You'll notice as I select on the different objects, different options show up on the right, and this is all part of the package and you selecting what the user should see. So from the user experience, the user can come in there and click on this and say, okay, I want to include why customers choose this. So this is just a PDF that I'm including in here, and I want to put out a quote. Let's say I just want to download this so I can email to someone. So when I run this, I want you to see some cool things. You can also set up forms so that you can input data into the calculations that are being done. So I'm going to create this sales order, and I'm going to say that the number, the expiration date is going to be on the, let's just pick next, the 18th, and the number of users that we have are going to be 20. Right? So I'm putting in these two values, and I say run, and what I want you to see is it's acquiring all the data from the back end. It's going to pull in all this data and do the calculations in a spreadsheet, but to the user, this is what they see. So let's take a look at this and take a look at what's been generated. Notice that I have the current date set up here. Notice that I also was able to say I had tags in here, so I'm able to populate this. You'll notice a watermark that I was able to put here because that's what I wanted to do for this sample, is show you that we can watermark this as well. I have all my current data that I want to put in there, but some of the things I also want to show you here, remember that I put in 20 users, so you're seeing the 20 users, and then we can show what the price is and do a calculation of what the total cost would be. And then down below, we can do a calculation for the total investment. And if we go all the way down to the bottom after all the legalese, you'll notice that I was actually able to put this in there And remember, I had the order expiring on the 18th, and I have all the information ready for a DocuSign. So all I would need to do is plug in DocuSign if I wanted to, and have this go directly out to Phyllis, and then she could DocuSign this, and then we could close that sale. You'll notice I included the why customers choose Nintex document generation. So remember, this was an option that I had to include this extra information down at the bottom. Notice that it gets watermarked as well, but this was a PDF that was put together with a Word document. So that's basically how easy it is to be able to do this. Let me show you some other things that you can do. I'm going to go back to the lead, and then we're going to do something a little bit different. I want you to notice that I could go in here and say, you know, Phyllis, you probably didn't notice this, but I'm going to change this to be something like there's no rating here. And so I'll set that. And what you didn't notice here was while that thing was running, while the DDP was running, it actually updated the rating because I know that the customer wanted a quote. And so based on that, I want to have it so that that quote, when it gets done running, actually updates some fields. So you can do that as well. You can update fields and do stuff like that. So let's go ahead and do it a little bit different this time. Let's go ahead and generate that quote. But I want you to notice I'm going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to go from Salesforce, and I'm going to push this out to SharePoint and to Box, because one of the things I don't want to do is I don't want to have finance people sitting there working in Salesforce. You know, this extra money to have them going into Salesforce just to log in and get some information that might be sales order related or contract related. So what I'm going to do is we'll run this same workflow. I'm going to say that it expires on the 31st. The number of users, let's go with 100 this time. And I'm going to say run. And if the demo gods are working with me today, you're going to see how this works out and what it looks like from the user's experience. Now, once it processes the document and pulls this all together, we'll take a look at a couple things that it's going to do here. So, you know, ideally it's going to run to completion here, making me nervous that it's sitting there, but sometimes they take a little longer to gather the information. Once it does do that, then I can go back and then we can take a look at what that workflow is actually doing. So, like I said, if the demo gods are working with me, and let's see if this completes here. If not, I'll just rerun it. That shouldn't have taken that long. So let me go back here and just rerun it real quick and see if I'm jinxed today or not. Let's go ahead and take a look. We'll go to Salesforce. We'll go here. I'm just going to go with the defaults, expiration date, 1 user. Let's try running it one more time. It should go through a little bit quicker, unless I'm having a total meltdown here. So it's acquiring the data, processing the document, and finalizing. There we go. And what it should do here, if it gets that last thing, I want you to notice it's giving me the opportunity to verify the quote before I actually synchronize, so I can actually go here from the user's perspective and view it if I want to. I'm just going to send it to a Nintex workflow. So this Nintex workflow is running in the cloud, and here's the beauty of this. Now what I've done is I've generated this quote. The document package, as you can see, has been sent to Nintex workflow. So let me show you some things that happened before that happened. Notice that the rating that we set with no rating has been upgraded to warm. That's a great thing that I want to have happen there. But what I want to do is I want to switch you over, and then I want you to take a look at the Salesforce grid that I have here. So now we're sitting in Office 365 SharePoint. And what's going to happen in a minute is that workflow is actually going to refresh and synchronize this information over here. So now you see right here, here's that quote that I just generated, and it should be for 1 user. I defaulted to the 1 user here. So if we go and take a look at that, now you can see that, you know, we generated this. Notice we have 1 user here, and taking a look at the bottom, everything else is the same. It expires 2 weeks out from today's date. So I have that information there. So that's pretty cool. I was able to synchronize that. But I want to show you some cool things here. I am actually sitting in Office 365 SharePoint, and now what I can do is I can actually click on this link, and if I want to, and I have access to Salesforce, I can click on this link and it'll bring me right to this record in Salesforce, okay? Now, there's another thing too. If we go and take a look at this other view, I can take a look at all my opportunities here, and one of the things I want to be able to do is, before this rating wasn't synchronized, but after reviewing, what I want to do is I want to edit something here. I'm going to edit this, and I want to show you something that's really cool that's going to happen right here. I'm going to go in there and change this rating to hot, and I'm going to save that. Now you'll notice that I'm sitting here outside of Salesforce, and what I'm doing is I've changed this rating to hot, and so what's happening on the back end is SharePoint's actually figuring out there's been a notification, but there's a workflow that I have running behind the scenes, and this is what it is right here. This is the actual workflow. It's just one action, and this one action uses my credentials, and it says update the lead, and the record I'm looking for is rating, and update that with whatever the user has put in there. So that's how simple it was to be able to communicate back into Salesforce. So let's go ahead and take a look at Salesforce, and if I update this record, you'll actually see that we should have gone from warm to hot. We have a hot rating. I want you to notice another thing I did when we actually ran that document generation. I updated the sales order link to point to SharePoint to bring up that record. So it's cross-referenced. If you're a user that has access to Salesforce and to Office 365, you can bounce back and forth. But let's just take this another step further. And what I did in the workflow was actually have it so that any quotes that we create actually get replicated in Box as well, because not everyone has SharePoint, right? So you might have Box, you might have Dropbox, you could have OneDrive, you could have a bunch of different things there. But if we go ahead and take a look here, you'll see that now here's Abbott Insurance at the bottom, right? Here's my quote. We're storing that and we push that out directly. But I want to show you some other information here when we start looking at some of the other custom metadata. So what I did in here is when you take a look at that quote that I put out, which is the same quote that we're replicating, notice on the right-hand side, I can tell you, I can put all the custom metadata in there. So one of the things I did here was put in who the lead owner is, and I want a link from Box to Salesforce so that I can interact between the two, okay? So a lot of really cool things we can do there. We can generate documents from reports as well. One thing that I want to show you as well, and we'll talk about this, let me go back to the slide deck and we'll come back and peel away some of the onion a little more here. So let me go through this. If we take a look at this DDP, what are the things that you need to configure when you do a DDP? You basically take your documents and you include what it might be optional. You saw me add the optional, so we can add different documents that might be included based on a customer's request. You could say, well, put in this extra information that they might need. But you put in all the required fields, and then it's up to you to figure out how you want it to be delivered. You can give the user multiple options. Store in Salesforce, send it out as an email, as an attachment, or actually download it so you can preview it, and then maybe you can send it later. And one of the things with the delivery as well is we can kick off to run separate workflows to actually do what I was just showing you, where I'm integrating with different systems to pull that information into Box and draw into SharePoint. Another thing that you saw me demonstrate was updating the fields. So opportunity fields, lead fields, chatter posts, any kind of follow-up tasks. These are all the kinds of things that we can do as we're going through this wizard that allows you to create these. So from the user's perspective, and I apologize, that's a terrible, it's not your eyes going. I thought it was my eyes going, but when I cut and pasted this in, it was a really bad graphic. I blew it up too much. But basically, you're creating this document package, and the document package, you go through a wizard. As you can see, the wizard has basically 6 tabs that you fill out. Pretty simple from the admin point of view. And the great thing is, from an admin perspective, when you're creating a document package that you need to take data, you have access to the full hierarchy. So let's say that you are starting with an opportunity, and that's why I have the starting object. Now remember, your DDP is only going to be available to the user on the starting object. So you create a DDP for leads, you create a DDP for opportunities, create a DDPs for contacts. You can do a bunch of different things. But the cool thing is, once you do that, it's the document generation is only available on those types of objects. So you're not seeing a whole list of things that don't associate with the object you're working on. But you can take and create references. So in this situation, I'm in an opportunity. I have account information. I have billing contact information. I can get to line items. I can get to custom objects as well. So that I can create some really dynamic and really a lot of specification as far as data that I'm trying to pull together for a document. So think about when you're looking at an opportunity, what other information that you might need if you're generating a statement of work. You know, who's the contact? You know, who's the account? What are some of the line items involved with the opportunity of things that they're interested in? So these are all things that you have access to. Now, the great thing is, one of the things that you do, and this is part of your job as an administrator of DocGen, is having something called the document tagger. So on the left-hand side, you're seeing here where we have all these different tags that are associated with the object. So if we take a look at the object before here, let me get rid of that drawing. Hang on. All these objects that you have reference to here, as far as account, opportunity, and line items, they end up showing up in what's called a document tagger. The document tagger right here where I'm circling, making this multiple squiggle lines, you can see I'm selecting opportunity, and when I select on opportunity object, what you're not seeing down below on the tagger is I have a whole list of things that I can drag and drop from the left-hand side to the right-hand side into my actual document. So on my right-hand side is a Word template as an example, but remember, this can be Excel, this can be Word, this can be PowerPoint. I drag and drop these fields from left to right, and I can drag them. You can see, like, even here, we're taking a look at the products and creating a table. So we can bring table information in as well. So looking at the line items, this is where you'd see the line items. Looking at the quote number and date, all the different things that we could do, the count name. So you can see from the left-hand side, we're dragging and dropping all these fields from left to right. And once you save that, when the document package runs, it fills out all that information for you. And then you make up the decision. Do you want it to come out in Word, or do you want it to come out in PDF? Or maybe since you're doing so many documents that are going to be combined together, you're going to merge them all into one PDF. So including documents, as many as you want to, and being able to also put logic behind it, saying that if I'm generating a document for a smaller company, maybe there's different legalese than there is for a larger company. And so you can actually put in an if-else type of situation. If this value equals this, then include this document. If it doesn't, don't include it. So you have that type of capability and fidelity within the application. The next thing is configuring deployment. Now, you were seeing me do it from a button click. So that was how you were seeing me doing the generate documents, from a button click. But we can also create hyperlinks that are actionable hyperlinks. And we can also do mass mailing as well. So think about your marketing people when they want to find out and send an event to a bunch of different people. What they can basically do is they can run a Salesforce report, get all the emails from your contacts, and then what they can do is they can generate a document and they can attach their own custom thing saying, please join us you know, for this session, or whatever discounts or promotions you might have going through there. The other thing we can do at the bottom is we can kick off the work, we can kick off the document generation as part of a bigger workflow. So think about having triggers. Someone updates an opportunity and says we've closed this opportunity. Maybe part of that is running a workflow through a trigger on that field and saying, hey, let's go ahead and automate a thank you letter to the customer, a thank you email to the customer saying thank you for your purchase. Give them detail about the purchase, since we have access to that in Salesforce, and being able to pull out that information as well. So the sky's kind of the limit how you can do stuff like that. So let's go ahead and look at the experience from the admin's point of view. So now I'm going to switch to a different view, which will actually allow us to take a look at, I'm going to go in here and take this view, and we'll go into Nintex draw loop and just take a look at some things. So one of the things we did is we did Nintex DocGen quote and info. That was one of the things that we did in here. And just let me kind of show you what it looks like from the perspective of an admin, okay? So from the admin perspective, this is a document package. We're looking at a document package, and you can see that this document package, let me scribble on here a little bit. I want to point out some things. This document package is dealing with a record type of lead. So that means that this document package on the left-hand side, that name will only be available for record types equal to lead type, okay? And let me erase some drawing here and then go down a little farther. Here are the documents. Oh, I also, before I go down to the bottom, I wanted to show you the field tagger. So remember, I was telling you, you have access to everything. So I'm starting with a lead, and you'll notice down here, if I make this bigger, if I start with a lead, these are all the fields that I can drag and drop into my documents. So if I need to have the company, if I need to have, the number of employees, lead source, master record, owner name, you can see I have access to all lead information. I have access to all account information. So account name, numbers, billing codes, you take a look at there. These are all the fields that you can use. We can also look at user fields. So we have all this information that's tied together. Now remember that everything in Salesforce is basically a list. A lot of the lists, if you've looked at the schema, they're all related to each other. So this is what gives us the ability to be able to look at all this information and get all the fields that we want to be able to use. Like you can see, I can even get down to like what's the time now, today's date, yesterday's date. These are all the things I can do in this field tagger that allow me to tag the document. Now, one of the coolest things that I did here is I have this thing called Excel as a middleware. This is an attribute of this product that no other products have. Let me go ahead and show you this. Let's go ahead and view this file and show you what this is basically doing. So I'm going to open up this Excel file, and I'm using this. I'm going to enable this, and what it'll do is, hang on. You'll notice that what I did is you saw me generating that quote for the number of users, and I think you remember that the number of users was defaulted to 1. There was no input for this, but I was able to get the total cost. And if you look in the upper left-hand corner, you'll notice I have total cost. I have another one, price per user. I have number of users. And then down at the bottom, I have the value for something called a Jumpstart, which is an offering that we have for training, and also sum total cost. So the great thing about this is that all these fields are being populated externally. And let me go back to the package here. Oh, sorry, I went to the wrong package. Hang on. So notice that I have this Excel as a middleware, but what I'm basically doing is I'm populating a document with that information. So I don't know if you remember those tags, but I want you to notice here that if I open up the Word document template, and you're going to see here in a second all the different tags that are in here. So let's take a look at that and see how this was tagged. Notice I have lead company. Notice that that's a tag. We come down here. We can see that the number of users is a tag, the total cost. You can see that, the total cost down here. We go down here, we have the sum of the total cost. That was in our Excel spreadsheet. And then we come down and we also have the lead company the lead name, and lead email, and when the sales order expires. So this is our template that we use inside that document to be able to take advantage of that, those fields. And again, when we take a look at the field tagger, maybe this makes more sense now when we look at the field tagger. If I'm going to take a look at like some of the form fields, remember I had the number of users and I wanted when the sales order expires. Now I'm going to come back to these two. Remember these two in a second as we go through here. Now, one of the things that I have is I said why customers choose Nintex document generation. I want you to see something here, that the inclusion type was optional. So that's why when we were running this as a test, when we actually ran this, it was saying, do you want to include this? So I don't have to include it if I don't want to. I could have gone in here and made it required, right? If I made it required, then it would show up in there, or I could make it advanced. And then I could have this if-else type of statement say, only include this. So you might have a situation, like I said, under special conditions, maybe your sales order is over $1 million and you want to include something special for that customer, you know, something like that. But this is where you basically create your list of all the documents you want to include and be able to do this. You can set the security for who has access to it. Notice another thing. I can also go in here and set the delivery options. So I actually have it set up so I can push directly to Office 365. I can start the Nintex workflow that actually put it out to Box and put it out to SharePoint. I can download it or I can email it as well. So I have that ability. I created relationships. These are the data relationships. So you can go in there and say, based on what I am, I'm on a lead. I want access to account as well. So if you take a look at that, it's very easy without having to go into Salesforce and understand what's going on in Salesforce. You say what kind of object you have. I started with a lead, and then I can say, well, maybe I'm interested in you know, something else here. But you can see that I could go directly into opportunity. If I want access to opportunity, I can say look up from what I have. This will create the relationship. So there's no need to do SQL or anything like that. You have the ability to just go directly and get the connectivity there to make that happen. Remember that I was updating the lead information when we generate this. If you take a look at what I did here, I'm basically saying is after you do this document generation, take it and convert it into a warm lead. Right? So this is after the fact. What I want to do is take the lead. I can add different fields and update those fields and be able to do that. As we keep on going down here and looking at some other options, the stamp that I wanted, remember the stamp said void on that one, so you can do watermarks and you can do a lot of configuration here as far as being able to stamp it with data with a watermark and turn it, you know, degrees. Horizontally, vertically, you can modify that. The next thing is I created form steps. Now remember, I wanted the user to have the ability to be able to input how many users and what the end date was. So that's what this order form info is. You can see I have an expiration date and the number of users. And that's basically, you can come in here and create a form and go in there and create all the different form steps that a user has to input there. So the form step name is called sales order, and it has two fields that basically go with that give you the ability to set expiration date and the number of users. Okay. Let me get down to some other stuff here that you can do. If we take a look at component groups, that's kind of the last thing down here. Now, a lot of times you're going to have data that you don't want to have to include the same lines over and over again. So order conditions and product definition. What I want to show you inside that document, we had a bunch of different fields here. Look at this tag here, component group, order conditions, and then I think I had another field that had the terms. So there's product definitions and then order conditions. So what you can do basically is you can have text that you use all the time that you want to include and be able to include that in any document. So if we take a look here and look at the component objects, let me go ahead and show you that. We'll take a look at the components. Document component groups, I think it is. Here are the order conditions. So when you take a look at it, this is the text that you're going to use all the time. And that wasn't a good example. Let me bring it up under edit. So when you're basically using these, what it does for you is it allows you to actually keep all the terms and stuff that you were seeing inside that document that I was using. I'm not bringing up the right window right here because it's been a while since I've looked at that, but I should be able to see it under here, I think. Yeah, there it is. So I'm under product definitions. I'm making sure that this is stuff that's a standard template that goes in every sales order that we put out. So if you were to buy Nintex, you'd basically see this line in there, and also the order conditions. So you could see all this different information that you can put in there. So think of this as the placeholder for what you're doing over and over again, and being able to have that capability to be able to tag a document and not have to recreate the wheel every time when you have some legalese that needs to go in there, or some information that needs to go in there. Okay. One of the things that we'll take a look at here also is that when you're taking a look at doing Salesforce reports, let me go ahead and go into sales here and then take a look at some of the reports. Now, I have a report here that has the users, all the users that I want to come back with. And in this situation, I had basically 2 users using my work email and this other test email. But what I wanted to basically you to take away from this is that I'm able to basically have one report that gives me all the people that I want to send a report to. And I also put the role name in there. And the reason that I put the role name in there is because when we actually generate the report, let me go ahead and bring this up. This report actually has some fields in it that are based on parameters. So the whole idea here, and it's not clear from looking at this, is you have one report that generates a name of people that should actually get a report. And let me just bring that back real quick so you can see that. So think of this, you have a sales manager, and then you have a lot of people that report to that sales manager. And every Monday, the sales manager should get a report of all the opportunities, but then every person that works on that team should get their own opportunities sent to them as well as a report. So what you're basically doing here is you have the capability of actually saying who are the people that should get the report. That's one thing. But by putting the role name or some other parameter, you can actually filter a Nintex report so that it only generates the information that that person is interested in. So it gives you that ability to do that kind of granularity, doing a report-based and you can a report-based document generation, and also you can set it up on a timer. So you can say every Monday at 8 o'clock, I want this report to go out to everyone. So you can time that and set up a schedule for that as well. Okay, so a lot of really unique capabilities. You know, even like you can see that under opportunities, if I open up an opportunity, I only see the document generations that are available to me with opportunities as well. So you're not going to have a lot of these available to you if you don't have that information. Notice in this situation, I'm only going out to this thing called the document queue, which is a way that you can store your documents and then come back to them later and be able to merge those. So if we take a look at Nintex draw loop here, and then I go into the document queue, here are some documents that I generated earlier, and we can take a look at that where we're generating accounts and opportunities report. Like I was saying, this is generated for me, Alex Vieira, and then you can see I'm using table and row replication, so I can see all the opportunities that I have, and below that I'm generating based on the opportunity name. I can tell you whether it's warm, cold, hot. You'll also see what they're interested in as well. So creating reports like this and replicating columns and rows and line items, very simple things to do inside of document generation in Salesforce. So from the admin perspective, just to recap on what I was talking about, when you're looking at these and you're creating a document generation package, there's very few configurations that you need to do. You spend most of your time figuring out what documents you want to include and how you want to format them, and whether it's row replication, table replication, there's a bunch of different things that you can do there as well. So with that, I kind of wanted to share with you where most people use DocGen inside of Salesforce. This is kind of the looking at depending on how people use this. But what I want to say here is that a lot of times it's the salespeople that are going to live in Salesforce, and maybe marketing for that respect. But I did show you some options today for having finance people or other people in different organizations that just need to view documents but don't really need access to Salesforce. And what you should take away from that is your Salesforce license is costing you about $2,000 per person. And the great thing about this is if you can replicate that data in Box, Dropbox, wherever you want to drag, wherever you want to push these data to, then you can just have these external people accessing that external store instead of having to have a login just to be able to view documents. So if you need more information about how to do that, or you want to drill in a little bit deeper into that, I can basically show that to you. And here's a example of how simple it was to do it inside of when I was going to Box, and I was also going to to SharePoint. When you saw me push that button and said it run the Nintex workflow, it basically runs this. And if you take a look at this, I'm starting the workflow with the document and all the details that are coming through that. So basically I'm telling Nintex, I'm going to hand you a file, and I'm going to hand you my URL, the lead owner, the company name, the company phone. All this information is going to be passed to you. Now I want you to store that data. I run 2 parallel paths. I store it in Box, and then remember I updated the URL inside of Salesforce. I updated the URL to point to the to SharePoint to give you that information. And this is how simple it was. Look on the right-hand side. I'm updating my connector to Salesforce and taking the lead and updating the Salesforce ID record, which is actually the Salesforce order link, and I'm saying, hey, here's a URL to the item after I got it back from SharePoint, right? On the right-hand side, we'll take a look on the right-hand side. What I basically did is I took a look at Box, and I was trying to see, does a folder already exist? If the folder already doesn't exist, go ahead and create the folder. Then what I want you to do is I want you to store my quote in Box in a directory. So you'll see when I click on this, here's the path I was storing it in, sales quotes from salesforce.com and the company name. You were seeing that right here when we were taking a look at this information. Let me get back to the root here, all files. So notice Salesforce, and then we were actually going sales quotes from salesforce.com. There's Abbott down here. So when you take a look at what was going on there, this is basically on the right-hand side. You could see I was taking this, putting in there, overwrite the file if there's a previous quote, and then I'm setting the metadata right here. So remember I showed you in Box when we were looking at that, I want to know who the lead owner is, and I want to link to the Salesforce record as well. So that's how we were actually getting this data over here. When we go in here, we take a look at the quote, we go over here and take a look at some of the other options with the metadata, where I can actually look at that and say, you know what, here's a Salesforce URL. If I want to be able to jump right out there, I can just use that URL to be able to find that information and get to that actual record. Okay, so being able to take advantage of this is a super simple thing to be able to do the integrations. Again, you're not doing any coding, so from the admin's point of view, I think you'll be very happy that you don't really have any coding to do. Just kind of looking at the things that you can do here, of being able to take this cutting and pasting that most of us have grown accustomed to, and just eating up 20 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour of your day doing this cutting and pasting, where you can generate directly from Salesforce or any other application, and having that kind of capability. So We do have a Jumpstart program. When you buy this product, we want to make sure that you're not stuck with this product, just trying to figure out what to do. So if you're considering buying this product or you want to trial this product, definitely send me an email. I can set you up with a trial. And what I'll ask you to do is send me a couple documents, examples of what you're trying to do, and I'll actually help you get through the first couple of these and walk you through this. And I do that with at no charge to you. You do have the option as well to get more detailed. We do offer services as well. So if you don't want to do any of this, we can actually set up everything for you, and you just hand us the documents and we'll tag them and do everything for you. So I want to thank you for your time today. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to my email there, and I also will be sending out my slide deck to you as well. But I want to thank you for your time today and give you back 10 minutes of your life. So thank you very much, and we'll see you next time. Take care. Bye-bye.